So in my last video, I finished by telling you that my grandfather guided me back down into my body. And when I entered my body and I was back down there, he continued to talk to me and let me know what was going on in the greater world around me. Because when I re-entered my body, I could feel the inability to breathe and move and speak. And so I was bound by the vessel of the body all over again. So he let me know, don't worry, the paramedics are on their way. They're about 30 minutes away, or 30 seconds away. They're right outside. They're turning the corner. He was letting me know what was going on so I could get ready for everything. And when they arrived in the room and they started working on me, I still had just a tiny bit of movement left. Hardly anything at all. It wasn't even, I would say, actual capable movement. It was movement that I was forcing out of my body. And so all I was doing was trying to move my hand with as much force as I could muster, just a little tiny bit. The reason why I was doing this is because the paramedics kept saying, she's out, she's out, she's gone, she's gone. And I kept thinking, no, I'm trapped in here, I'm in here, I'm not gone. I know everything that's going on, I can hear everything. So like I said, I was just trying to move my hand incrementally, using all the force that I had to grab the paramedic who was next to me, to grab his hand so that he would feel it and go, oh no, she's not gone. Because I hated the sound of that, she's gone, she's gone, she's gone. And when I finally reached his hand and then just kind of cupped it as much as I could, it was such little force to him that he didn't even feel it, and he pushed my arm off to the side. And that's when they started doing all this respiration work on me, and I was throwing up. I was aspirating on my own vomit. It's kind of nasty, but it was true. And so they finally got me on the stretcher and were getting ready to move me out of the office. And my grandfather was still going behind me all the way out. And I was trying with all of my might to keep my eyes open, because I kept thinking, when I close my eyes, I don't know what's going to happen. So I was just keeping my eyes open as much as I could, just with all the force and energy I could. And when I got out to the parking lot, somehow my mother had made it in what would be a 45-minute drive in like 15 minutes. And I heard her high heels clicking on the pavement of the parking lot. And I heard her say to me, don't worry, honey, it's okay. We're going to take you to the hospital. Everything's going to be all right. And when I heard that my mom was there, I heard her voice. I didn't see her. I couldn't see her anywhere. But when I heard her voice, that's when I closed my eyes, because I knew she's here with me. She'll take care of whatever can be taken care of. I'll be okay. And once I closed my eyes, I was obviously taken to the hospital, all of which I have no recall of. And I was in a coma for 3.5 days, time for which I have no recall either. And when I came out of that coma, it was great. I'll tell this story another day. But when I came out of the coma, I moved my eyes over and I could see my father praying at my bedside. And I've seen my father pray all my life, so I know how long it can take. And I just remember thinking, Dad, 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 open your eyes. I'm awake now. I'm awake. And he did. He opened his eyes and he saw me for the first time awake in 3.5 days. Well, I didn't know it had been that long, but that was the amount of time that lapsed. And for a couple of days I came in and out of consciousness. But when I fully arrived and no longer reverted back to sleeping or comatose state, like I said, I had a condition that was called locked-in syndrome. And that's where all you can do is blink your eyes. You have full physical paralysis, respiratory paralysis, you cannot speak, anything. All you can do is blink. But you have no brain injury per se, so you have complete recall of everything. And it took me about 2 days to, I suppose, accept the shock of what that meant. I just kept waiting for things to move. Like, there's no way I'm going to have to live trapped inside this body. So something's going to change. And of course it was kind of shock, because I wasn't really willing to accept that. Meanwhile, you know, all kinds of activity was going on around me just to keep me alive. And so yes, I did live for a month and a half with only the ability to blink. Fortunately, my father had read an article in the Reader's Digest that was about Jean-Dominique Bourbet and this condition, and so he knew to create this communication board, which was a lineup of letters, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way in rows, and you just would move, he would move his hand across it, and if I wanted a J, I would blink when he hit J. Then he'd go back and start all over again. So immediately I had a form of communication, but that was all I had. And it's such a arresting condition, and it is so rare that most everyone who gets this in any form just dies. The body perishes because of shock. You catch enough pneumonias over a certain course of time that you die. You catch infections, and that's pretty much the fate that a majority of the doctors and practitioners all around me expected. But somehow I knew it wasn't going to be my fate. Primarily because I wasn't going to accept it. I mean, who's going to accept being a vegetable? Conscious vegetable. There's just no way. And so I had to begin early on to fight this in every way I could. And though I didn't have the ability to move anything, including a toe, at that point, I would sit in bed at night and visualize my legs making that rotation that they would make if you were to go walking. And then I would take it from walking to running. And instead of just imagining my whole body running, I would imagine the contracting of the knees, the foot going down, and then to the side, and making a whole arch coming up again, doing it all over. So I tried to plug my mind in to the resuscitation of the smallest parts of my body, and instead of focusing on full, complete movement in every way, to just focus on incremental structure and get that to react at some point. So I was doing this all day long, every day, while people were attending to me and caring for me. But I have to say to you that it was horror. It was horror. It was hell on earth. It was fear like you can't imagine, or maybe you can. And I don't have much conscious recall. Like on the average day, I don't think, oh my God, it was so terrible, I lived through that. But I know I've been to hell. And I know I have. And I meet a lot of people who say to me, I could never go through what you went through. And I always think, yes, you could, because you have no choice. You would have no choice. You could lay in that bed and beg God to take you. And if it was your time, you'd be leaving. And if it wasn't, you'd have to fight. So, yes, you could go through what I went through. And I also have people who will say to me, you're so strong. I can't imagine what that was like. And I always think, you know, I don't know what your pain has been like. I don't know what you've gone through in your life. And it probably was every bit as terrible and arresting as what I went through. Because I believe at the end of the day, we're one soul. And so if inside your own soul you have this belief that you're separate, and you're separate from the pain of other people, you're really in trouble. You are really in trouble. And I don't have that separation. And so I'm going to talk more about what I went through, but I had that condition, locked-in syndrome, so I was locked in for a month and a half. I want to talk about some other things.